Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Well, my friends, you've heard that the riches are in the niches. Let's see if that is actually true. Please welcome Mr. John St. James. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it. Always good to visit with somebody like you. So thank you for having me on.
Of course. Well, so start us off, if you would. Tell us a little bit about the professional journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
Wow, that's a great question. Where do you start? So let's start. Crazy enough, I oversee an international martial arts organization. So if you were to say, what is one unique thing about John St. James, is I am a 9th degree black belt in a martial arts system. Been doing it for 50 years, so yes, I am an old guy. And through that whole process of earning 9 degrees, very similar to Chuck Norris. We're actually come from the same instructor, the same system. I wish I had the fame and the money that Chuck has, but anyway, that's about as close as we get to Chuck Norris. But anyway, yeah. So I was you're from Philadelphia. I started in Philadelphia, got my first degree, black belt. I moved out to San Diego, and I did an apprenticeship out there with a master instructor. And so I have written a book called The Master's Path, because I've been on this path for 50 years. And so along the way, I learned that the best way to get good at anything is to study with a master. And so what I did is I did an apprenticeship. And that apprenticeship actually included, believe it or not, living over the men's locker room just before I got married, and learning from day one how to enroll members, how to sell contracts. I know this is a show about sales, so I thought I would mention that, at the ripe old age of 18, I was already signing membership agreements, signing people up, getting people involved. And so, clearly being an instructor was very important, that I learned how to build rapport. And so over the years, those skill sets have come in handy. And you'd asked a little bit about the book, and we can talk more about the book, but the book goes into various phases of this training. And by the way, the Master's Path, for anybody that's wondering what we're talking about, that's just your life journey. It's your path through life. And we have different phases of this training. And so at some point, if you would want me to go further into that, I am more than happy to do so.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So, but I think we have to just pause for a moment on this whole 9th degree black belt concept. So how does this work? I mean, so obviously, I think in the martial arts, and you can in life and business, there is a certain level of attainment, yes, right? Obviously, the martial arts black belt. For people in business, it could be $1 million business.
Right.
And so obviously there is a drive, there is an ambition, there is a focus to take a business from 1 million to 5 million to 10 million to 50 million, etc. There obviously is a motivation to go from black belt to 2nd degree, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. I was curious, once you hit that black belt level, right, where a lot of people would say, hey, I've arrived. I'm on the top of the mountain. I know there's more. I know there's bigger mountains, but I'm already a black belt. What is it? What's the drive that takes you to 2nd, 3rd, all the way up to 9th degree? What do you tap into there personally or spiritually that keeps you working so hard once you're past that first significant threshold?
Yeah, that's, again, a wonderful question. So I'm going to use a Japanese term. It's called the Kaizen, Kaizen. Kaizen mentality, which simply means that whatever I do, I'm going to do at my very highest level. I'm going to give my very best. And sometimes it's translated to constant and never-ending improvement, right? So constantly getting better, constantly growing. And there's another term I will use, another Japanese term called ikigai. And that really comes down to what are you most passionate about? What drives you, right? In my book, The Master's Path, How to Intentionally Create Happiness, Joy, and Fulfillment, I'm talking about the spiritual gift of the artist. Now, my take on that came from my martial arts background. Mastery at its very highest level is you're always a student. You're always studying to be better at what you do. If you were to, I'm sure many people here have probably seen the great Tom Cruise movie, The Last Samurai. And the one thing about the samurai was, whatever they did, whether they were speaking, walking, whether they were doing the ceremonial tea ceremony, whatever they were doing, they were putting a total focus to it. And so really the same thing on the master's path is whatever we do, whether it's, our passion, the thing that we were born to do, hopefully our calling, right? Or whatever it is, I call again the spiritual gift of the artist. To me, what is that? The spiritual gift of the artist is the thing that a lot of people call their superpower, right? Their core genius. What is it that you do that is needed by the world? And how can you most impact the world with what you do? And of course, one way to do that is to become an absolute expert at it. And that means you're always growing. You're always improving. You're always walking the path, constantly getting better as you go.
Yes. So powerful. This taps into a couple of my long-standing beliefs. Number one is this concept of mastery.
Yes.
And I've always said and believed that a master or an expert is someone who is constantly seeking expertise or seeking mastery, right? Master never arrives. So a master is constantly seeking mastery. You said it brilliantly that the master is always the student, right? The master is always learning and sharpening and focusing and advancing. The other thing that this reminds me of, and this goes way, way back to when my kids were small, our daughter went to a very interactive, very hands-on summer camp. And so we went to visit like every 2 weeks, and parents come and visit and, pat the kids on the head and you're okay. And okay, fine. And you need some more bug cream. Okay, here's the bug cream. Bye. See you in 2 weeks. She took us on a tour, and in the computer lab, which was really quite advanced, there were these motivational posters on the wall, handmade, hand-drawn by the kids. One of them said, and this must have been 15 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. The poster said, "A master at work is a master at play." And the attribution was Zen saying. And I was like, oh, that is good. That is good right there. A master at work is a master at play.
Absolutely. Or like the one, here's another right on this is, before enlightenment, chop wood. After enlightenment, chop wood. But the whole thing is the more we do something, the better we get. But we're always trying to get better. So we're always doing that thing, whatever that is, that drives us, it juices us, where we make the biggest impact. That's, again, our superpowers. Those are the things that we want to focus in on. But as you said, mastery is never ending. It's a journey, and it lasts for as long as we are alive, basically.
Yes.
Always trying to get better. So
yes. We interrupt this interview with an important announcement. If you're committed to better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees, get over to doitselling.com right now and grab a copy of my new book. That's the deal, kids. Grab a copy of the new book and then get all the bonuses, companion tools, trainings, and downloads at doitselling.com. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. That's how it works. I'll see you over there. Well, so much great stuff, and we'll get back to the Master's Path book here in a moment. But John, tell me a little bit about your business, because your business is also fascinating, super tightly niched, and people can really learn a lot from the decisions that you've made and the deep specialization that you have adopted. So tell us about the business, tell us about how it started, and what's the state of the union today.
Very good. Thank you for that, and I appreciate it. So, yeah, for me, I started like a lot of guys. I had a passion for teaching. I like to teach. I'm a teacher at heart. I'm a coach. I'm a mentor. I'm a guide. And so for me, although I was, heavily into swimming as a young guy, actually swam competitively and all of that, at some point, I'm not a tall guy. So it wasn't going to be football. It wasn't going to be basketball. It wasn't probably going to be baseball. So I decided, you know what? I really like the philosophy behind this traditional martial arts. Now, I'm going to date myself, right? This was during the 70s, right? I was living in Philadelphia, and the big show at the time was Kung Fu. And so, if you ever watched the TV show Kung Fu, it was all about the wise master, the philosophy of being in control, of focus, of humility. And I just thought that was the greatest thing. So anyway, I started in karate. And so, like a lot of guys, at some point when I got to my black belt, I thought, I'd like to teach this. So I did start teaching. My very first program was at the university I was attending, at the University of California in San Diego. Gosh, this was back in 1981. And then I got out of college. I was given my first position. I was with State Farm as a management trainee, and they moved me up to LA. And so my wife, who was also at the University of California, she transferred to UC Irvine. And so I said, well, here I am. I'm going to start another program. The UC San Diego program is still going with a couple of my black belts. I had given that program to them, and then I started my next program at UC Irvine. And that program flourished. And then before long, I was promoted to corporate headquarters back in Bloomington, Illinois, with State Farm, of all places, the middle of the cornfields. And I started a program there. And when I started the program there, I took a little different path. Since I wasn't doing it for money, I started an at-risk program. I actually went to the community center, and I said, this is on the wrong side of the tracks. And I said, I'm here. I can teach anybody, but I love teaching children, and I can teach them self-confidence, self-improvement, right? Focus. I can teach them these things, self-esteem that they need. So that then led to me being recognized within State Farm, because State Farm actually helped fund this community center for these at-risk kids. That actually led to me starting a foundation. So I actually oversee a nonprofit as well, in addition to my for-profit business. We'll get to that in a minute. But so basically, I was teaching all the time. And then when I got transferred to Atlanta with State Farm to help open up the regional office, at that point, I thought, okay, I'm going to start another program. So I started these programs all over the country. So I got really kind of used to doing that. And then at some point, I decided, as much as I was enjoying my tenure with State Farm, I'm really not the guy that likes to sit behind a desk all day, right? So I want to do this full time. So I started my first school, full-time studio, 1996, and that really grew. That grew to several hundred students. And then at some point, that grew to multiple branches. And then at some point, I decided to create a sanctioning body, which is what I oversee now. That would be my for-profit. It's like the AAU for martial arts schools. So I oversee, sanctioning the color belts, the black belts, the instructors, the master instructors. I put on special events, including black belt camps, masters camps, instructor training camps, national, regional, international tournaments. So that's kind of what I do for a living. Then I do the nonprofit as well. So really, at some point, then I clearly decided I didn't have time to run the school anymore. Sold the full-time studio to a couple of my students, and have been going full-time with the Federation, which is the group of schools that we have internationally here in the United States, and then overseeing the nonprofit. And at some point, as you get older, you decide, you know what, every one of us has a book in us, right? We all have a book in us. I believe this. And so, with all of my experience and life experiences, I thought, let me share this concept of the master's path. And really, what does that mean? And so, at some point, I'd be happy to share, but it's a whole philosophy, basically.
I was going to jokingly ask you, John, and what do you do in your spare time?
Well, I'm really big into world travel. We travel quite a bit.
Well, the joke was, I don't think you have spare time with all these different endeavors and all of these empires that you're running simultaneously. That's amazing.
Well, my friend, I wish they were all empires. You had asked me what's the current state of the union, and I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that although we have attained a lot of success over the years, the pandemic did cause a major ripple in the force.
Yes.
Because, people, if they're going to a martial arts school, it's an in-person type thing.
Yeah.
And although a lot of our school owners did continue via Zoom, thank goodness for Zoom,
yeah.
The truth be known is, it caused a major disruption. So, yeah, there's, as you know, right, there's always in life, there's always the ups and there's the downs.
Yeah.
But the focus is always going to be hopefully on the ups and what can we do to get better. So
absolutely. Well, I want to dig into the book, but I'm also very curious because this whole concept of niching down and zeroing in on who do you really want to serve, who is the best client, who is the best fit, who is, calling out to the universe for a very, very specific type of person. There are coaches and leadership consultants and management trainers. They say we only work in the self-storage industry. Right. And I can tell you how many self-storage companies there are. I can tell you how many self-storage buildings there are. I can tell you the associations, the publications, the watering holes, the gathering places.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit, before we dive into the awesome concepts in the book and the frameworks that are in there, how big is the martial arts education market? Do you have just some quick numbers to share with us?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's literally millions and millions. I mean, I couldn't give you the exact number, but I could tell you there are millions and millions of people studying the martial arts. Having said that, I can tell you it's a billion-dollar industry. Yeah. And I can also tell you that people that are studying the martial arts are studying a very diverse range of martial arts. So they're studying what a lot of people today, when they think of martial arts, they're thinking, but by the way, I will give you one pretty solid fact here, for factoid, and that is that on average, only about 3% of the population study some form of martial art. But less than 1% of the population trains in what I do, which is traditional martial arts. Mm. Now, having said that, when I said millions and millions of people, I'm talking about traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you were to include, and some people are probably not familiar with, you're including the UFC, United Fighting Championship leagues, and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you all the different styles, right? Yeah, it's huge, right? It's huge. However, what we do is a little different, right? So, in any type of sales, marketing, number one, specialization, right?
Yes.
To become an expert at what you do. And then number two is differentiation. So for us, how we're different is we don't just focus in on physical skills. We teach leadership training. And that's really my niche. My niche is I help schools to develop leadership academies. So what it is that students are coming in, they're learning the physical training of the arts, but they're really learning things like goal setting, public speaking. And we deal with a lot of children, as you can imagine, as well. So what we're in, we have families, entire families in our programs, moms, dads, and kids. And so even our professional folks, the parents, they are taking these classes as well. So, we get into all types of different leadership training. So my real skill set, if you will, is teaching leadership training to not just only the school owners, but to the membership as a whole. Now, to go back and share one more factoid with you, most school owners are not, and I mean this for 50 years, I can tell you this, most school owners are accidental business owners.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they're people that have a passion and a love for teaching.
Yeah.
They love to teach, and they're very good at what they do, but they really have no business training. They're not entrepreneurs.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And I mean, your area that you focus in on, are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneurial mindset is less than 1% of the entire population.
Yeah.
People who really think like entrepreneurs, who are risk takers, or are willing to do whatever it takes to get to that next level, it's a small group. Those are the right fit clients that I look for. So
yes.
when you talk about targeting, right, targeting your market,
yeah,
you're looking for clients who have an entrepreneurial mindset, who are wanting to grow. And we call this in my book, phase one, learn and grow. Two parts, learn and grow. And this is what's called the memory stage. This is where we're just starting to get the information.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people in that group right now, but very, very few are willing to put in the time and the energy for phase two. And phase two is what I call the apprenticeship. And that is where we share and we serve. And sometimes we serve without being paid, right?
Yeah.
I did that for years in the martial arts. I taught under a master instructor and learned the trade, learned how to do it. So, but it's there where we really develop our knowledge, our attitude, our skill sets, and our habits, right? Acronym is CASH. Sure, we've all heard of that. So nice. Knowledge, attitude, skill sets, and habits. And this is where we internalize. This is where we really learn. We really learn at a level that will take us to the third part of this, and that is, which, by the way, I call this all the success paradigm. The model of success is to lead and inspire. And the only way to lead and inspire is you have to be able to be an expert at what you do, and then be able to build teams. And this is an area that I specialize in. Very few people are comfortable with building a team. It kind of reminds me, I'm sure you've probably read Michael Gerber's stuff, The E-Myth.
Sure.
He talks about the difference between the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that are in my program that run schools, they are the technicians.
Yes.
They love doing the stuff, the teaching, the physical training. But managing a business is a totally different bear. It's a totally different thing here. And then finally, being able to build a team so that you can step away from that and not work in the business, but on the business, there is where mastery takes place, because now you are developing people in your team. And I ask this of everybody I work with, tell me about your team. And when I say, tell me about your team, oftentimes I get, well, I really don't have a team. I'm a one-man army.
Yeah.
And that's when I know I'm speaking to somebody who really needs to move from technician to manager, and then manager to entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And at entrepreneur, there's obviously different levels of mastery, right? You said 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, whatever. And this is where we start to see differentiation, the difference between somebody who's doing it and somebody who's doing it with excellence.
Yes, for sure. I know you also have a very interesting take on generative leadership. So leadership versus followership, and sort of what a true leader, what the kind of highest level leaders do that most leaders either don't or they don't have the skills or they haven't studied the skills to do this. Can you share that generative leadership model with us?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually, when we talk about the law of addition, and I'm stealing that term from John Maxwell. I actually am part of the John Maxwell team. I'm a internationally certified coach with him and a guide and a speaker. But where I'm going with this is, when we talk about the law of addition, we're talking about adding value to people's lives. Okay, so whatever we do, whether we're selling, or we're leading a team as a manager, or we're leading a business as an entrepreneur, and we're doing all of the above. The bottom line is we have to be value added. We have to be adding to whoever that customer, client, member is. And so the very first thing we have to do with, in any leadership roles, we have to be the first. We have to go first. We have to set the example. We have to do the very thing that we want others to do. And there's really where there's a major gap, is a lot of leaders want to tell somebody what to do, but they don't want to do it themselves. And you shouldn't have to do it yourself very long if you train somebody properly, but you do have to at least show them you know how to do it. And so the law of addition is critical. The law of influence, a great book, Robert Cialdini did a whole study on influence and how to influence people. And really, that's what leadership is. I mean, if you were to boil it down to the essence, leadership is nothing more than influence. Nothing more, nothing less. If I can influence somebody through my example, if I can show somebody through what I do, then obviously, if I do it well, people would gravitate to this. And so being a model of success, we have a term, it's actually a Korean term. The style of martial arts that we teach is Korean. Sa-bum. Sa-bum means a model of success. So somebody that is a master instructor in our group is a sa-bum. In the Japanese system, it'd be a kyoshi or a hanshi. Different systems have different names, but basically what we're talking about is somebody who has mastered the path, somebody who has walked the path long enough, who knows the material well enough that they can do it and they can show it. And that leads me to a great little, I love this quote: know the way, go the way, and show the way. Know the way, know how to do it, go the way, actually walk your talk, and show the way. Actually show people that you can do it and you want to show them how to do it to add value to their life, to improve their life. If that makes sense.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there. Let me ask you this. You mentioned that the book is organized into three phases.
Yes.
I love that each phase has sort of a verb, right? They're verbs that you're putting in. So learn, grow, share, serve, lead, inspire. I'm guessing that some of these are easier to adapt and easier to start living. And then there's probably some stuck points. There's probably a couple places where most people get a little bit hung up or caught up in some complexity or some, internal obstacle, mindset, belief system, value system, whatever it is. I'm curious, John, where do you see the stuck points? And then how do you help your clients and audiences break through those plateaus?
No, what a great question. You ask really good questions, David. I tell you that. Very deep, very deep. We could take a whole hour on this, but I promise I won't. So first things first, right? There are the four payoffs. I call them the four human payoffs, and every one of us are motivated to some extent by this. We want to look good, we want to feel good, we want to be right, and we want to be in control. Okay. And depending on who we're talking to, some people are really influenced by looking good. And you can tell who those people usually are. And that's not a bad thing, by the way, right? We all want to look good. And, feel good, that's really the essence of my book, which is, bring happiness, joy, and fulfillment to your life. We're all trying to leave some form of make a dent in the universe, leave a legacy, create something bigger and beyond ourselves to help people at a higher level. So there's all that going on. Now, here's what I know about people, right? I've come to learn over all these years, no big secret. Although we'd like to think that we're all very rational, logical thinking human beings, I mean, the truth really is that we're mostly all emotional beings. And, we all want to be heard. We all want to be seen. We all want to be understood. Okay. And so what happens is, going back to your questions on these sticking points, is when we're working with people and they're in phase one, learn and grow, they're developing the knowledge, right? And these are, by the way, this is your formative years. This is when, your parents and your teachers and your coaches, they're feeding you. And you're starting to formulate, right? All of these things. Your knowledge starts to increase. Your attitude starts to develop. You have a little bit of skill set, probably. I mean, obviously some children more than others. But as we get older, we start now to move into this phase two. Phase two is a sticking point, the first one. Now, why is that? Well, when we're talking about sharing and serving, we're talking about getting in front of people. We're talking about communicating. Now, and I know, David, there's a lot of experts out there. They're absolutely genius at what they do. But you take them away from that computer and you put them in front of a group of people and say, I need you to develop this person and train them to the next level. That's not what they do. They're outside of their comfort zone. And so in today's world, more than ever, even in school, in academia, more than ever, people need these, and I don't call them soft skills. They're not soft skills, because learning how to communicate at a very high level, and you know this because you can, is a very, very, very important skill set to have. But what happens here to most people who aren't comfortable with that, right? Fear of rejection, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of loss, the fear of fear, right? And all of that is what we call, and you know this, the self-identity set point. This is that thermostat that you have on your wall. I use that analogy.
Yeah.
And when you set it at 72, when it starts getting up to 76, the AC kicks on. And if it gets below 72, it goes down to 60 some, the heat jumps on. This is that little brain, that little voice in your head that's going, you're not all that. The imposter syndrome. You can't do that. So the first major sticking point when working with people and building the team is allowing them to have small wins. Small wins. Get them started slowly, start working their way up to getting some momentum going, the power of Mo, right? Big momentum. Now, the next major hurdle is in phase three. And phase three is where we are literally leading people and inspiring them to the next level. And this is difficult because and I know that our greatest assets as business owners are people. And our greatest liability are people. and it is because at the end of the day, everybody has a different idea of what they want to do. And so what we have to do is we have to be, to some extent, we have to be the expert. We have to step in and show them this works, this not so much. And now we start to ask those questions. And I will finish with this idea. Most people, you're talking about sales today, the sales show. Most people want to just talk, but they don't want to listen. So the key here to helping them through this is just to ask better questions and then listen and then let them convince themselves because that's oftentimes what happens. Listening to themselves, they don't go very far until you start asking them the questions that they needed to be asking in the first place. And now they start to realize, oh my goodness, if I don't change this behavior, or if I don't start doing this, where am I going to be down the road? I'm going to be in the same place I was.
Yeah.
So I need to listen to somebody who's advising me from the heart, that is speaking the truth. This isn't about one-upsmanship. We're not trying to show that we're better. We're just trying to show there's a better path. And we'd love to show it to you if you're interested. And most of the time, by asking the right questions and listening, and being willing to really listen hard, and then ask a good question off of that, usually you can steer them in the direction that they need to go. Because, by the way, when we talk about sales anyway, it's all about needs and wants. And we know this. The needs are not always the same as the wants. As an example, I want a Corvette. I don't need a Corvette.
Right.
My Toyota 4Runner works perfectly well. It's brand new. But boy, I like that brand new Corvette. Why? Well, identity, image, feel good, look good, right? So we have to find out how to use those psychological triggers, if you will, and help them to the next level, if that makes sense.
Yes. So good. Well, as we're landing the plane, I know that people are going to want to get connected and stay connected to more John St. James brilliance. Please tell us, where can we get the book? Where can we connect with you? And we're going to put all of these links and resources into the show notes. But how can people get in touch with you and grab a copy of the book?
Thank you very much, David. Yes, you can go to Amazon and you can order the book right through Amazon. That's the quickest and easiest way to get it, and probably the cheapest way to get it. The other thing you can do is you can go to my website. Now, I have several websites, not for the Federation or the nonprofit, but for the book itself. It's called masterspathconsulting.com. So it's Masterspath, one word, consulting, right on that same thing. So it's long, masterspathconsulting.com. And that'll get you there.
Tremendous. Are you active on LinkedIn? Shall people find you there as well?
Yeah, I am on LinkedIn, and you can find me under Masters Path Consulting, or you can find me under John St. James. I have, I want to say 8,000 connections now. So yeah, I am on LinkedIn. I don't have enough time to really do on LinkedIn as I should. So I've got people now who are doing that for me. But yes, LinkedIn, you can find me there. Thank you.
Very nice. Awesome. And the book, again, is The Master's Path, How to Intentionally Create More Happiness, Joy, and Fulfillment in Your Life. John St. James, you are a rock star. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your time.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.